All right then, so today is the last lesson, 42 lessons we've done, and today is the last one. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through two things today. We're going to go through the role play exercise that we did last week. So I'm going to go through basically the tutor notes with you to show you what we had as a plan, basically, because then if you haven't got all the information on your joining form part 2, you can add it to it so that you can then go on and do the structuring the healing journey form successfully. So we'll go through that, and please, ask questions and give feedback, and we can have a discussion about that role play. And then the second thing is the exam. I'm going to go through the exam and question by question and give you all the information. Okay. All right, lovely. So I'm going to go through the role play exercise that we did last week, and then I'm going to go through the exam, basically. That's what we're going to do. So let me start with the role play, first of all. And please butt in whenever you want. This was a very practical exercise, obviously. And if you want to add things in or ask questions, just butt in. But then, so we had a form part 2, joining form part 2 as well, which we'd just written some instructions in it, basically, to go off. So let me go through this with you. Screen about a bit. Right then, so general. Okay, so it was Danny, and male or female, depending on the tutor, whoever was doing the role play. So age was 40 and married with 2 children. Zoom in a bit on this view. So we wanted to have Danny not really have read the welcome pack, because quite often people don't read the things that you send them, and so it was better for you guys as students if Danny hadn't read the welcome pack, just to encourage you to have to explain a little bit about what Network Healers is. Yeah, so as I was saying, today we're just going to go through the role play and then go through the exam, basically. So we're just starting the role play here. So Danny, age 40, married, 2 children, hasn't really read the welcome pack. We had some questions that we wanted to try and get out at some point during the meeting, like what is energy healing, or what do I need to do as a healing partner, and shall I stop my medication? And is there a time limit? We might not have got all these questions out, by the way, because when we do the meeting, it's kind of fluid and the conversation flows. So it's not, we might not necessarily have got all these questions out. Can you heal my asthma? Or really, what we wanted to hear was the disclaimer that we don't guarantee any cures or healing or anything like that, of course. And I think most of the time, I think the answers came out quite often without having to ask the question even. So that was very good. Right then, so he or she was diagnosed with asthma when they were around 35. And it was supposed to be, so this is an actual type of asthma, this adult onset asthma. Well, actually, sorry, I should say the actual type of asthma is called non-allergic asthma, because on the form, on the joining form part 1, there was no allergies. So what you can derive from that is that it is a type of asthma called non-allergic asthma. And it was adult onset. So that can happen. That can happen to somebody in later life. It can just come on. So this kind of thing is what you can research before the joining meeting. Once you got joining form part 1, you can actually just Google all the stuff, find out as much as you can on any conditions that they've got, so that you can be prepared for the actual meeting and a little bit about what they've got before the meeting. Right then, so he or she was a retired firefighter. So that wasn't immediately obvious. It's not on the joining form part 1 as a profession. The profession is manager in a large restaurant. But this is all about digging a little bit and trying to understand more about the person and their life, basically. And this came out in the conversation, of course. So retired firefighter and part-time manager is also very important there. We'll get to this, but part-time in the large restaurant. So constant smoke inhalation has helped bring on the asthma from the firefighting days. Also, there's some asbestos exposure in there causing asbestosis. Now, asbestosis was on the joining form part 1. So we knew that already before going into the meeting. And asbestosis is a permanent scarring of the lungs due to asbestos exposure, which you can get from either being a builder or in demolition, or firefighters as well sometimes as they're going through houses that are falling apart because of the fire. Next bit, in a quite bad state, always using the inhaler all day long, seems to be getting worse. So that's all about asking questions about the asthma. You know, how bad is it? How often are they using the inhaler? Are they using any full face nebulizer masks and things like that? You know, how restrictive is the asthma? These are questions we want to be asking. And he or she had to move to part-time work because of the asthma. This is also very important. Because of the asthma, he or she has had to reduce the amount of hours they were working. And there's legal disputes with the fire services surrounding asbestos exposure. Another very important thing which will link into the emotions later on, when there's a section in a minute called the emotional and psychological, because you want to be getting all the facts in your meeting. You want to write down as many facts as you can, but you want to be asking also all the emotions. What are they feeling? And even on the joining form part 1, anxiety was a major problem. They joined Network Healers for the asthma and for the anxiety, didn't they? That was on joining form part 1. So trying to understand as much as possible about the anxiety is very important. Next bit, my partner doesn't work due to being in recovery from alcoholism. And so I am the primary earner. Now that is very important as well. And we try to make a point of that, of being the primary earner, and that's causing a lot of anxiety. So I'll get to the emotional in a minute. So the conditions that this person is suffering from: bladder stones, which are hard crystallized mineral clumps that form in the bladder; an overactive bladder, which is an urgency to urinate, occasional incontinence; and diverticulitis, which is small pouches forming in the colon, in the sigmoid colon, which is the lower part of the colon. These little pouches, which then things get stuck in those pouches and start getting infected and inflamed and cause all sorts of problems and pain and things. And there was another pain to pick up on. There was frequent lower back pain. This was a bit of a mystery, to be honest. It's on the joining form part 1. And Danny thinks it's something to do with a work accident 10 years ago, but not sure, because there was a work accident as a firefighter and something to do with the lower back. Okay, then we had a little note saying, hopefully the student will ask if breath work has been done before. Say, no, I haven't done it before, but very willing to try. Hopefully the student will ask them to take it easy, one step at a time, to allow the lungs time to get used to it. And this was sometimes prompted by the tutor saying, you know, is it going to be all right to do breath work with my asthma? Because that's a common question with people with asthma, especially if it's if deep breathing triggers coughing. And hopefully the student may even mention the lake of healing energy meditation, because that's always an alternative to the breath work. But, you know, in asthma cases, we want to try and get them to start breath work, but we just have to take it easy with them and a little bit at a time to really build up their tolerance to doing the breath work. So you could maybe see somebody starting with just the meditation to start with and just maybe a few breaths. And then as time goes on, just very gently increase the number of breaths that they're doing until eventually they're doing proper breath work. And that will strengthen the lungs. All right, that was the facts that we were trying to get across. Any questions about that? Any comments to say? Can't hear you. No, it's all right. I think we did. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what people need to do. Any information possible on the joining form part 1, needs to be researched, and so that you're going into that meeting with as much knowledge as you can. And it's very easy to research these things. Absolutely. Somebody else got a question? All right, and so back to our role play, and in terms of the emotional and psychological. So it's so important to delve into people's emotions as much as possible. Now, it really does depend on who you're talking to, of course. Now, it's easy to get facts from people because they're used to being asked questions that are just a simple question and answer to get the facts. Emotional, that depends on the person, really. So you've got to kind of judge it. You've got to make your own decisions in the moment. You've got to use your own intuition and kind of diplomacy to decide how much you can dig into somebody's emotions. And you might find that you might only be able to get a few things out in the first meeting. Or if anything, some people are not ready to talk about their emotions at all in that first meeting. So this is an evolution, of course, and that's why the Structuring the Healing Journey form is an evolution. The more information that you gather, the more you can update it. Having said that, as much as possible, we want to try and get the emotions because that really gives us a good picture or somewhere to start from, because when we are finding people's emotions, we're also finding their karma. Okay, no worries. Okay, excellent. Right then, so emotional and psychological. So if the student mentions that it's free, and we hope that you would, unless they mention it, we wanted Danny to be so thankful that it's free because he or she hasn't got much money and we're struggling to get by. This is very important as well. So hopefully that came through a little bit. They just want to live a normal life. Terrible anxiety about not having enough to provide for my family, especially my children. Anxiety because asthma is getting worse and I'm worried that it will stop me working. These are all very important points, very important emotional points. And, you know, I think the fact that they've put anxiety down as one of the things they want to fix on their Joining Form Part 1 means that you can delve a little bit into the anxiety and ask as much questions as possible. So these are the really important things which later on you're going to associate with karmas. So terrible anxiety about not having enough to provide for my family, especially my children. Anxiety because asthma is getting worse and I'm worried that it will stop me working. Very important. Anxiety over having an asthma attack at work. Anger at partner for not working. Very important as well. Always stressed with legal battles. County court sessions often and legal fees are mounting up. Very important that legal fees are mounting up. Hopefully that got out in some of the meetings. Can't decide whether to forget it or not, those court battles. Partner is always causing trouble. Coming into the restaurant drunk and abusing the staff and customers. Terrified that I'll get sacked and have no income. That was very important, no income. So never tried healing and partner doesn't know that they're doing this. So this is very important as well. They wouldn't approve. Spiritual but not religious, but doesn't think about it that much. I think that came out once or twice, but much less important to start with, really. But, you know, the checklist, by the way, let me take the opportunity to say that the checklist for Joining Form Part 2 is a guide. We don't need to get everything on the checklist talked about in that first meeting. It's just a guide, and it may take quite a few meetings to get all those things talked about. So on that checklist, it's just everything there. So it's just something to have in the back of your mind to remind you of the sort of things that we need to ask, really. However, it does need a bit of an update. After that role play exercise, I think we need to have a new version and make it a bit more user-friendly, some bullet points and things like that. So that'll come out over the summer, hopefully. All right then, so the last bit on this form was really just to give the tutors a bit of an idea of what karmas are burning. So I'm going to go through this. I'm not going to carry on. There's more information on this form which I'm not going to go through, otherwise, because you've got to take this away and think about it yourselves and apply what you've learned to the SHJ form. But I will go through these karmas just so that you're aware of the main points to start from, because on the SHJ form we always start with karma. In the problem section we always start with karma, because karma is the root of everything. It's the root cause of everything. And karma is emotional memory. So quite often the main karmas that are burning will then dictate all the problems, the domino effect or the knock-on effect of all of those problems into the material body. So medical conditions will have a root karmic cause generally. Yes, hi Jules. Yes, I can do that. I can upload this into Classroom. Absolutely. Okay, so there's 3 main karmas that are burning in this case study. There's going to be others, so you might pick up others, and if your particular meeting went down a particular route or took a particular turn, you might have picked up on some more emotions, and that's fine. So then there is usually many karmas burning, but there's 3 really important ones that we wanted to get out in the meeting. And the first one is root chakra karma. And the emotion is fear. And the context is financial struggles. Because root chakra karma in energy psychology, root chakra is all about safety, security, and survival. And yes, that people normally think of that as like health or fear of death or something like that, fear of losing the material body. But actually, that can mean financial stuff as well, financial security. So when we write down karmas in the SHJ form, we want to start it like this. What is the karma in terms of the chakra? What is the actual emotions? And there might be more than one. In this case, fear. And then the context is financial struggles. Right, the next one is the sacral chakra karma. The emotion was fear again, because this is what was causing all her anxieties, or his anxieties. And the context is not being able to provide for his or her children, because that's the sacral chakra, isn't it, in energy psychology? Reproduction and parental care. So not being able to provide for one's children, or the fear of that, is a sacral chakra fear, and therefore a sacral chakra karma. And the next one, the third one, heart chakra karma. And the emotion is anger or frustration, and the context is being let down. So the heart chakra karma in energy psychology is attachment to loving relationships. So your partner, anything to do with your partner, is going to be heart chakra. And in this case, he or she was constantly being let down by her partner. So that's the context. Now, with those 3 karmas and any others that you might have picked up, what you can do is actually build a picture of what has happened and why this person is in the particular state that they are in. So I'm not going to go too much further on that. I'm going to let you have a think about that. But you need to think about the medical conditions, and think about what the medical conditions are actually doing in his or her life plan to burn that karma away. And assume for this case that we have a higher mind that is making life plans. An awake high mind that's making life plans, and there is a life plan. So you need to think about those karmas and think about how it's led to all the problems in the life and the medical problems, as well as all the other problems that are going on. Okay, happy with that? Any questions? You're not doing it on your own either. This is part of a hub. This is part of a hub that this happens in. So you're going to get plenty of help. So start with coming up with some ideas, and then ask your tutor, or send your questions and ideas to your tutor, and see what guidance can come back. And very gradually together we can build a picture, and then you just start filling out the SHJ form. You've done an SHJ form already in a previous lesson, so that's been done already. You just need to repeat that process. And we're thinking in terms of time frame for this and the exam, by the way. I think we're thinking maybe mid-August, so a month or so to do this and the exam, because the exam is quite a bit of work as well. I'm going to go through that in a second. Really, we want to get this closed out by the end of August, is what we're trying to do. We want to get it all out the way, all this theory stuff out the way by the end of August. So, it's approximate, but if you can try and maybe get both of these done by mid-August, then that gives us a week or two to just finalize things and get it sort of cleared away. And then we can start on the year of practice in September. Okay, does that all make sense? All good? Right then, so let's talk about the exam. Right then, so this is based around the 7 modules of this course. So I'm going to be going through these questions and then showing you, going back to the list of modules again to remind you about how the course structure is laid out. So there's a general section, a few bullet points there. Then you got the list of modules, which are there. and then we just go through each module, and there's a few questions. There's 3 questions on each module. Okay, so let me start going through these bullet points to start with. So this is an open book exam, which means that you can research your answers thoroughly. So it's you could call it an exam, but you could also call it an assignment, really. It's a list of questions that you're going to take away, go and research and give us an answer to. And as I said, you've got till mid-August, and hopefully let's get it closed away definitely by the end of August. Okay, next one is, please be aware that the word count for each question is only approximate. So at the end of each question, we've got a little word count just to give you a guide on how much we want you to write. It's only approximate. So, you can write more or you can write less. However, if you're going to write less, please try and keep a track a little bit on how much you're writing so that you don't deviate too much from the overall word count, which is 4,700 words in total. Okay, as well as testing your knowledge, this is also an exercise in finding information. You're not expected to know everything, of course. And in Network Healers, we're always learning. So what we've done is we've put the relevant lessons underneath each question, and we're going to reattach the list of lessons in Classroom. And that's this here. The modules and list of lessons will reattach this form so that you can get to know the course. Because really, you're going to be going back to this. You're going to be going back to this constantly as you're working in Network Healers, you'll always use this, really. So it's good to get to know the list of lessons, the modules, and Classroom is always going to be available for you to go back and find the information if you need the information. So this exam is also a bit of an exercise in doing that, in knowing where to look for the information that you want. Okay, we'll come back to that. And last bullet point there'll be a feedback form for you to fill out before the end of August, just to give you a heads up. We haven't written it yet, but it's going to be an intuitive and interactive feedback form about the course so that we can learn from you guys and evolve the course as we go and make it better and better every year, hopefully. All right, that's the general section. Next is the list of modules, which is number 1 is Network Healers. Number 2, self-healing. Number 3, reincarnation and karma. Number 4, energy healing. Number 5, anatomy and physiology. Number 6, projects. And number 7, the awareness of the source. And let me just go back to this diagram again here, just to remind you that we presented the course with a list of lessons in a particular order, didn't we? Lesson 1 to 42 started in September, and today's the last one. However, the lessons are separated into different modules. So this diagram, which we went through at the start in the very first lesson, I think, this shows the actual modules and which lessons are part of each module. And in this order, we didn't do the lessons in this order because, some modules have 3 lessons, one beginning, one middle, one advanced, and we can't do them all together. They have to be spread out through the course. So that's why we did it in a different order. But if you want to go and find the lessons, they are separated into these modules. So as I go through these list of exam questions, I'll just come back and forth to that diagram to show you what lessons are involved in the question. Right, module 1, Network Healers. Right, also, before I start, there's 3 different questions for each module. And what we've done is we've tried to separate it out into 3 different types of questions. There's a knowledge question in there, a knowledge-based question, which is purely going to get the knowledge, or if you know it already, brilliant. But, you can always go and get the knowledge and write the knowledge, usually in your own words. We don't want copy and pasting going on, because it's much better to understand a topic to be able to explain it in your own words. But there's a knowledge question. Then there is usually a creative question. Now, the creative question is more about you finding something from within you, using your intuition, that sort of stuff. So there's a creative question there. There's not a right or wrong for the creative questions. It's more about you finding the answer in yourself and getting it on paper. And then number 3 is the practice question. So we want this exam to be a bridge to the second year of practice. So we want to get quite a lot in here to get you thinking about how to put this information into practice, basically. So there's a practice question, which is more towards the second year. How are you going to apply this information? All right, then. Any questions so far before I start the list of questions? Okay. And at the end of every question, I've put an approximate word count and also in purple there, the lessons which it refers to. So module 1, network healers. Number 1, describe network healers in your own words. Lesson 1. And if we go back to this, here we go. Network healers, lesson 1, introduction to network healers. So just a short description of network healers. And this is very useful because it can be difficult to explain network healers. And when we have a healing partner meeting, quite often we have to explain network healers. So it's something that we kind of have to start to build a little bit of a little few paragraphs of talk that you kind of know off by heart. After a while, you kind of just know off by heart, but it's good to start by writing it down, how you would explain network healers. All right, number 2, describe the universal law of healing in your own words. And that is lesson 2, because lesson 2 was the Aya Guide to Healing there. Lesson 2, Aya Guide to Healing. And in that Aya Guide to Healing, that was that big diagram, and in it had the universal law of healing. So basically it's taking that and just summarizing it. And by the way, I should also mention that this exam, you can also have help. If you're stuck anywhere, please just let us know and we'll help you immediately. Same thing as the SHJ form. You're not on your own with this exam. Don't struggle with it alone. If you've got any questions, just fire the questions to us or on Classroom. Put some questions on Classroom and you can have all the answers you want. So number 3 is describe the process of joining network healers in bullet point format. So this is just a list of bullet points so that you know the process of joining network healers. And there it is, lesson 26. And when you know the lesson, if you can't remember something and you want to go and watch the lesson, you can go and watch the lesson, the video thing, or you can just read the course notes, because quite often you'll get the answer straight away just from reading the course notes. Okay, it's 11. Should we have a little break there? Awesome. See you in a few minutes. Okay, how are we doing? Almost there? Okay, so we've just gone through module 1, network healers. Describe network healers in your own words. Number 2, describe the universal law of healing in your own words. Number 3, describe the process of joining network healers in bullet point format. Right, so we're on module 2, self-healing. So number 1, give a brief description of all 5 layers of the pyramid, 400 words. So you've done this in a previous assignment in great detail. So all we need to do now is to really just condense it down so that you are able to come up with a few paragraphs just to explain the 5 layers of the pyramid. Because when you're talking to a healing partner, quite often, yes, we want them to do the pyramid course, but quite often you have to just give them a quick taster of what the Aya Healing Pyramid is. So this is just encouraging you to get your own words sort of organized in a little bit of a little explanation of the pyramid. Number 2, take one layer and come up with an idea of how you could expand on it. For example, another self-healing technique or some intuitive knowledge. So basically, this is just really banking on the idea that eventually, one day, each layer of the pyramid could be its own course. There's so much within each layer of the pyramid. And what we teach in the pyramid course and in the fast track is really, to be fair, only scraping the surface of each layer. To have one lesson for each layer really doesn't do each layer justice. So there's lots more that we could include in these different layers. So this is just to try and get you to maybe think about it, use your intuition, anything that you can think of, anything at all, whether it's another self-healing technique that you could suggest or something else, some other intuitive knowledge that you are given about the layer. So anything at all. Yes, that's a good point. Not other therapies. Yes. Yeah, it has to be independent from other therapies. Yeah. Absolutely. I'll put that in there. Number 3, describe how breathwork and meditation can help with severe anxiety. So that is a practice type question. And there's quite a few different angles that you could take with that. So it's up to you how you approach it exactly. And it's not that many words, so you've got to keep it fairly brief, but there's loads of different aspects that you could go to. Module 3, reincarnation and karma. So number 1, describe the spiritual evolution process from animals all the way through to the Kundalini awakening. Now, the reason why we put that in there is because in terms of reincarnation, pretty much the biggest subject that we tend to talk about in a Network Healers Hub when it comes to reincarnation is spiritual evolution. So we thought, well, let's put that in as a question. Okay, so that's question 1, spiritual evolution. So that, you make sure you have solidified in your mind the journey of spiritual evolution, the growth of the Kundalini system, up through the central spinal channel until you get to a Kundalini awakening. Okay, number 2, give an account of how karma produces the result of suffering. So this is a bit of a biggie, to be honest. Give an account of how karma produces the result of suffering. Now, it's up to you how you answer it, really. But we've asked you to at least include in your answer something to do with karma, obviously, the karmic personality spectrum, the karma emotion engine, chakra blockages, and the awareness filter. So as long as you mention them somewhere and how they might tie into that little process of suffering. And number 3, make a comprehensive list of all the possible beings or entities that can be encountered in the astral dimensions. So let me just go back to this, just to show you here. So we're on reincarnation and karma. And in reincarnation and karma, there is reincarnation 1, reincarnation 2, reincarnation 3, so 3 lessons on reincarnation. There's also 2 lessons on karma, karma 1 and karma 2. And there's also 2 lessons on the collective mind 1 and collective mind 2. That's why we've got a lesson on reincarnation, spiritual evolution, a question on spiritual evolution, a question on karma, and a question on the collective mind. And this, we also thought, what subject about the collective mind do we talk about the most in Network Healers? Well, actually, it's entities, interestingly enough, because a lot of people do turn up with entities. So we thought this would tie it in nicely. Make a comprehensive list of all the possible beings or entities that can be encountered in the astral dimensions. And also, please be aware that there are more than what is included in this course. It's only really scratching the surface what we've included in this course. So you can use your own intuition to add to the list if you wish. So don't think you're just restricted to what we've put in those 2 lessons, 12 and 36. Cool. All right, next module 4, energy healing. So question 1, energy healing. Describe the difference between intention and non-intention healing and list all the types. So intention and non-intention healing, we've been talking about it all the way through the course. And you will get that information in those lessons. Lesson 1, 27 and 37. So if we look at energy healing, in the module of energy healing, you've got energy healing 1, the basics. You've got energy healing 2, non-intention and magnetic enzymes. And then you've got energy healing 3, which is the Maya organ and Akashic healing. You've also got emotional and energetic self-protection in there. You've got the book of codes, and you've got 2 lessons on golden energy healing system as well. So non-intention and intention, that will be in lesson 1, lesson 2, and also a bit in lesson 3 as well. But if you're happy with describing it without going to look for the information, then that's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. And it's only 200 words, so you only need to go and look for the information if you need it. All right, question 2. Describe the process by which healing energy is made in the healer all the way to the end of its journey in the recipient of healing. So again, this question kind of ties in lots of different parts. So include in your answer how it's made. So here we're talking about the guna and the programming. That will be in lesson 1, energy healing. The tank, step 1 and 2, brow chakra connections and entry into the energy body. That will be in lesson 27, which is energy healing part 2. Number 3, the creative one. Come up with a new energetic self-protection exercise that we have not taught you, using breath, visualizations, or a combination to teach to a healing partner. And please do not use any external props. So basically, what this is banking on is the idea that these self-protection exercises that we're teaching people tend to be a combination of breath work and visualizations mostly. And a visualization can be anything. I mean, it's the intention that actually does the job. So what we're asking here is to come up with something slightly different to what we've presented, and it can be a visualization if you like. So you'll need to probably go back to that energetic self-protection exercise, which is lesson 17. See what we've taught in that lesson and see if you can come up with something different, basically. And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. And the last bit to that question, also include why self-protection is not needed for a person going through the process of self-realization. We want to make that very clear, make sure that everybody understands that and remembers that, because when we talk about self-protection, that has to be part of any course of energy healing. But really, in Network Healers, everybody's going through self-realization. So it's not really needed for the healer. So really, we're learning it so that we can teach it to other people, so that you can teach it to your healing partner. So make sure you include something along those lines in your answer there. All right, lovely. Module 5, Anatomy and Physiology. So question 1, research online some common medical conditions of the heart that are linked to lifestyle. Give a brief description of 3 of them, giving possible causes and symptoms. Please summarize them in your own words. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because in Network Healers, we use the internet so much when it comes to the material body anyway. There's so much that's known in science and medicine about the material body. So whenever we've got medical conditions that come up, we're just straight into Google, and using AI is very useful as well. So we want to get people into the habit of Googling or whatever AI you want to use, or whatever search engine you want to use, but finding the information online and having a quick understanding of what the condition is. So we've just chosen the heart for you. So if you can just come up with 3 conditions of the heart with causes and symptoms. And we want you to summarize it very, very briefly in your own words, 100 words for each of them, just so that there's no, just straight copying and pasting, because it doesn't really go in so much as you copy and paste. Okay, so number 2 then, give a description of each chakra in the Kundalini system and include in your answer how an emotion chakra can affect our emotions and also the material body. So that one is really just straight anatomy and explaining a little bit about each chakra. And number 3, analyze your healing journey and list the blockages that you've had in your emotion chakras. So this is turning on to yourself and thinking about your healing journey. What blockages do you think you had in your emotion chakras? You haven't got them anymore, of course, because you passed the Kundalini awakening phase. But this is just going back and applying this stuff to yourself, because it helps when you are explaining it to somebody else or trying to think of somebody else, their healing journey. If you can apply it to yourself, then it helps you understand the processes involved. So include in your answer how they related to your psychology and calm. And all the lessons are there. And in anatomy and physiology, we had an anatomy intro, the structure of energy. We had 2 lessons on the material body. We had a lesson on the lower mind, 2 lessons on the energy body there, and a lesson on the higher mind. Okay, module 6 is projects. So number 1, give a bullet list of the procedure from an application all the way through to meeting with the healing partner, describing each step and forms to use. So again, this is practice. This is putting it into practice. But you've got lots of lessons that show you. There's lesson 25, lesson 41, lesson 38 and 39. So let's just have a quick look at them. Projects. So we've got lesson 38 and 39, the case studies. It goes through exactly that, basically. So those are the most important. Probably the second case study one, actually, lesson 39, was when we really just went through the process from start to finish. So you could probably get everything you need from lesson 39. Number 2, make a list of practical questions that you would ask a healing partner about their experience of asthma to get a broad picture of their condition. So this is just getting you in the habit of asking as many questions as you can about the actual, the largest condition that they've got, the most important one, the one that they have listed as on joining form part 1 as why they are seeking healing, basically. So we need to ask as many questions and build as big a picture as possible about that particular condition. And as the project, the Free Flow project, is going to be about asthma, then of course that's what this question is about, is to prepare you for that. And once you've got your list sorted, you can keep your list separate in your notes, and it can always be there as a reminder for you, as whenever you get someone with asthma as part of the research project, you've always got your list then to make sure that you can get as much information from them as possible. And number 3, in your own words, give an account of why scientific research in energy healing could be beneficial or not beneficial. So this is completely up to you what you write here. Give an account of why scientific research in energy healing could be beneficial. So this sort of strikes deep into the whole reason why we're doing it and our whole plan for Network Healers. But if you can think of any reasons why it's not beneficial, then please put it down, whatever you think. And module 7, the awareness of the source. So question 1, practice objectless meditation and try to describe the true self in your own words. So this is lesson 28. If you remember, we had a lesson called Awareness, the seventh principle. And we went through a couple of exercises. One was called What Am I exercise. And the other one was Subject Becomes Object. And these were ways of getting into objectless meditation, which is where you realize the true self. So we want you to practice that basically. So you can go back to that lesson and watch those exercises again and give it another go. I know you guys probably did at that time. We did some of it in the lesson, if I remember. But go back and try and do that again. And this might be very tricky. You might find this tricky, or you might not. I don't know. And it doesn't matter what you write, but just so you know, it is very difficult. Normally, it's very difficult to write down a description of the true self. And any description goes, but really this is kind of forcing you to go back to the absolute core of what all of this is all about. And really the absolute core of what the whole universe is all about. It's the purpose of the universe. So this is a very important question. Okay, number 2. Describe the universal trinity in your own words. So that's lesson 29, the universal trinity. So that's probably going to take a bit of reading over again. But really, 200 words, it's not very much, so it needs to be condensed. Now, the universal trinity is very complex. It can be as complex as you want, or it can be actually as simple as you want. You know, at the end of the day, there's only 3. If you want to simplify it right down, there's only 3 aspects to the universal trinity. So really, it's just summarizing it in your own words. So you've got that in the back of your mind. You know how the universe works, the source of the universe works. And number 3, last question. Use your Akashic intuition to determine at least one of your past lives, giving a location, a time period, and a personality / profession, etc. Now, let me explain. So in the lessons, in the awareness of the source, we have intuition part 1 and intuition part 2. So really, this is just an exercise in intuition. It's not part of the reincarnation module. This is about intuition, but it's tying in reincarnation a little bit anyway. So it is natural for the source of the universe, when it becomes self-realized, to gain self-knowledge. And that will come to everybody at some point. It will come to every soul in existence at some point. Sometimes it comes quite soon in self-realization, sometimes it doesn't, it comes later. And that's just different for everybody. So don't think that you have to find a past life exactly. And maybe I should word it slightly differently. Really, it's about searching. It's about using the intuitive process to go searching. So all you have to do is ask yourself some questions. You can start by asking your intuition some questions. And there's in the intuition lessons, it tells you how to do that. But in terms of past lives, it's very easy to start, I think. All you have to do is to start, first of all, thinking about what time period that you feel the most drawn to. You start thinking, what time periods have I always been obsessed with, or I've always been interested in? Where do I feel that I've been in the past somewhere? You start there. And then you go and research that time period online. You spend a lot of your time, with past lives, you spend a lot of your time looking online. And you go and research that time period or that location. So it's usually a time period in a location somewhere. Oh, do I feel that I've been in ancient Egypt, for example? Go and research ancient Egypt. Or do I feel really drawn to ancient Greece? Or do I feel drawn to Tibet in the Middle Ages or something like that? So you just start with that, and then you go and research it, and then you just keep asking your higher mind questions and let your higher mind guide you in where you're going. But I want to make it absolutely clear, this is not an exercise, this is not a question in getting one of your past lives. It's irrelevant whether you get a past life or how close you get to an actual past life. That's irrelevant to the question. This is an intuition exercise. It's the process that we're interested in, okay? And I might just add that into the question just so it's clear. And there we go. That is the exam. Any more questions or comments? Everyone happy with that or terrified? Excellent. Good. Excellent. Yeah, but that's also, by the way, part of all your processes, all of our processes, is to be triggered. Don't forget the negative cycle of self-realization. It's all about confusion, and it's all about triggering. So doing this course is also part of your process, probably, in getting triggered by it. So as long as you remember that it's also anytime you get triggered or overwhelmed or panic, or it's your process that is doing it. It's ironing out that lower mind and helping you along your way. So eventually that won't happen ever again once you get past this phase of the process. All right then, lovely. Well, awesome. Well, we'll see you all very soon in lots of different aspects. But yeah, lovely. Shade. All right. See you all soon. See you and speak to you soon.